Hey everybody, welcome to the Jim Masters Show live entertainment lifestyle celebrity talk show series. Coming up next on this episode of JMS, we are celebrating and remembering Hollywood icon and legend, the extraordinary actress Joan Crawford. And boy, do we have an exciting episode in store for you as we welcome a very special guest joining us for the first time. Donna Marie Novak is joining us. She's an award-winning author, writer. She's a super fan of Joan Crawford as well. She's done so much digging and she has found out so much about Joan, some things we didn't even know about. And we're so excited to welcome her to the show, which we're going to do in just a second. First, of course, we welcome you to join us. Leave your comments below in the comments section. Let us know if you are a Joan Crawford fan. I would imagine you are. That's why you're watching this episode. So we hope you enjoy this episode and share your memories. Maybe you have some special nuggets about Joan Crawford that we don't even know about. Share them in the comments section right below this episode. We love when we hear from our faithful viewers who watch the Jim Masters Show from all around the world. On this episode right now, we're actually coming at you live. We're here in the New York area in the United States as we celebrate again Joan Crawford, the extraordinary actress, Hollywood icon, true movie star during the golden age of film and cinema, and really somebody who's left an indelible mark on all of our lives. I mean, her image and her voice and her likeness and her incredible contributions to the industry have been something that people still talk about today in grand style and in grand form. She is somebody who is also considered mysterious to some because she's had an extraordinary life, of course, no longer with us. We lost her in the early 70s, but wow, what a legacy of film work and stage, television performances, and more that she's left us. And we're going to talk all about that in just a second. Of course, she was born Lucille Fay LeSueur, and she passed away in 1977, an American actress. Started her career as a dancer and traveling theatrical companies before debuting on Broadway. Joan Crawford was signed to a motion picture contract by Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, MGM, in 1925 initially. Frustrated by the size and quality of her parts, Joan launched a publicity campaign and built an image as a nationally known actor by the end of the 1920s. And by the 30s, Joan's fame rivaled MGM colleagues Norma, Shearer, Greta, Garbo, and she often played hardworking young women who find romance and financial success. And these rag to riches stories were well received by Depression-era audiences. Those Depression-era audiences really received it beautifully, were popular with women. Joan Crawford became one of Hollywood's most prominent movie stars and one of the highest paid women in the United States. Really extraordinary. By the end of the 1930s, things changed in her life when it came to movies and so much more. We're going to talk about all of that. Don't want to give it all away right away because a lot of this is detailed in a fantastic book that we're going to be talking about that celebrates this extraordinary icon, Joan Crawford, of course, who we are celebrating here on the show. The book, it is just Joan. A Joan Crawford Appreciation that our very special guest, Donna, has penned lovingly because she's been an extraordinary fan of this icon, so much so that she wrote a definitive book on her life, celebrating the icon, celebrating the actress in such a beautiful way. Just Joan is based on Donna's website, the films of Joan Crawford, dedicated to her favorite actress, Joan Crawford, one of the most fascinating stars of the golden age of Hollywood, and she has few peers. No actress has projected as much raw emotion and has given so much of herself to every role, her charisma such that she was a force, whether playing a sinner or a saint. Talking about, of course, Joan Crawford, somebody who, again, just really, she's a fascinating topic, a fascinating person, a fascinating subject on so many levels. She created this image. She lived by the image of Joan Crawford, kind of like Marilyn Monroe did. We did a wonderful episode celebrating Marilyn Monroe. If you didn't see that episode as well, remembering Marilyn Monroe, Joan Crawford in similar fashion, creating the image of Joan Crawford With a career spanning some 50 years from silent onwards, she had many personas and looks, from endearing flapper to sleek, sophisticate, mink-clad career woman to garish, accused axe murderess, evolving with the times. She was even in the movie Trog in the 1970s. She was alluring and glamorous, yet strong and assertive, an underdog, a woman in a man's world fighting for her chance to make good, which she certainly did, which was her real story. Her toughness, which was actually only apparent in a small percentage of her later day films, well, offset by vulnerability, charm, and more. Her face was both angular and delicately sculptured, her eyes wide and dreamy and expressive, all said so eloquently by our very special guest, Donna Marie. She's carried herself, Joan Crawford, with unparalleled panache, a star from head to toe. Having succeeded with lots of hard work and determination, she remained eternally grateful to and generous with her fans. And she was truly one of the greats, complex, fierce, fragile, and shy. She embodied what our special guest and I also love about classic films, and continues to inspire Donna and inspires me as well. Here you will find film reviews, essays, book reviews, and more dedicated to a great actress and the ultimate star. Viva the diva, viva Joan. And as Donna says, thank you, Joan, for the wonderful legacy of work you've left and for your enduring, bold spirit. Really extraordinary. Just taking a look at, some of the incredible photos. And this is our very special guest, Donna Marie, who's going to be joining us in just a second here. Gang, if you are very excited about this episode where we are celebrating this iconic actress, the one and only Joan Crawford, we invite you to let us know in the comments section and help us celebrate and remember Joan Crawford in such an iconic and beautiful way. We have a lot of great things to show you here. We've been sent some really amazing photos. There is young Joan Crawford. So many images of her over the years. Of course, so many epic movies as well. Some of the most iconic movies of all time Joan has been a part of. This, of course, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane with Joan Crawford and Bette Davis. Of course, you remember so many of these movies, and we're just really scratching the surface. Remember Berserk? If you have never seen these, or you want to see them again, well, go search, find them. You will love them. Of course, Johnny Guitar, Above Suspicion, so many movies through the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, of course, television appearances as well, on and on. We just picked a few of these here to jog your memory, or maybe to introduce you to the repertoire of incredible cinema that Joan Crawford has been a part of. I mean, she's taken on so many iconic roles. Yeah. And some of them you may remember. And here's another one here for you too. And of course, everybody remembers Whatever Happened to Baby Jane with Bette Davis and Joan Crawford. That was iconic. There's so many stories about that too. And the relationship between Bette Davis and Joan Crawford, which was an interesting one to say the least. And so many stories written about that relationship. Again, these are just, and of course, Trog was the last movie in the 70s that she was in. And we just saw that again recently. It's become a cult classic if you've never seen that one. Again, a true icon, an American and if not international star on so many different levels, when Hollywood movie stars and glamour were really the thing of the day, everybody. And of course, she was also president of the Pepsi-Cola company, if you didn't know that as well. Her husband at the time was president. And then when he passed, she became the president. So much more. Again, I don't want to give it all away because there's just so much in the book, Just Joan, that Donna shares with all of us. And we're very excited to, again, welcome her to the show. So there is your official Jim Masters famous introduction to our guest. I like to give them a fair introduction. I also like to celebrate the subject before we bring them on to pay homage and to honor the guest and the subject of the conversation. Let's welcome Donna Marie Novak to the Jim Masters Show, for this fascinating conversation about Joan Crawford. Donna, welcome to the show, my
Yeah,
friend.
hello. Yeah, I'm
Do you like
excited
that
to be here.
introduction?
Yeah, that was a great introduction.
Kind of like an Academy Award introduction, right? Now come up and get your statue.
Yeah.
But I understand this interest and this passion that you have for Joan Crawford, to the point of not only being enamored by her and really learning as much as you can about her, but
Mhm.
also penning a book. As a published author, not always an easy task. How long did it take you, the award-winning writer and journalist and author, to also focus on Joan and pen this fabulous book? Was this something that you've always wanted to do for years?
No, it actually wasn't. This was a 4-year project.
4 years.
I used to go to on Thursday nights at Chelsea Clearview in New York. Hedda Lettuce, the drag queen, would be the hostess of these wonderful movies, classic movies. And every, Thursday I'd go there because I'm a big classic movie buff. And then one time it was They All Kissed the Bride with Joan Crawford. And I've always liked Joan Crawford the way I like Betty Davis, without saying that they were actually favorites. But when I saw They All Kissed the Bride, it was an entirely different Joan that I'd never known before. Just the glamour struck me. It was a lighter side to her. She jitterbugs in the movie. And I was really interested. And a lot of times I'd see these movies and I'd go on a kick. I'd be on a kick with a particular actor. With Joan, it stuck. I've seen everything, like all her bootleg Silence I tracked down. I've seen all of her movies that are available up to the very last. And I never lost interest in her. If anything, I became more fascinated as it went on.
When did the fascination actually start for you? Was it then, or was it in earlier years? I'm
Well,
sure.
I always liked her. When I was
Yeah,
a kid, I'd seen her on television and
the talk shows and everything,
yes,
right?
I
Yeah.
did, and I remember the Joan that I knew most was the Joan from the 1950s and from Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. I think
Yes.
that's the Joan that most people know. And I had seen Susan and God when I was a kid, but I had forgotten about it. How glamorous she was in that white suit.
Yes.
Adrian, her designer, Adrian. And then, when I saw they All Kissed the Bride, that really kicked it off for me. And I started a website. That's how it all began. And I was getting emails from all over the world from people. And then I decided to turn it into a book because I'm a writer. So I was there at Lincoln Center Performing Arts Library every single day from the time it opened till it closed. They have incredible resources. They had the original scripts. They had the original plays with the author notes on them. I had a master list of every, I know this is crazy, every short story, every novel, every play, all her books that were written about Joan Crawford, and I tracked them all down. And I also read the biographies of people who knew Joan, like Vincent Sherman and Myrna Loy, to find out what they had to say about her. And of course I read Mommy Dearest too, but
Yeah.
I read everything. And it just, the fascination just grew and grew. And it made me realize how much of an impact Joan Crawford had in the Hollywood world. Like, she is like the history of cinema, because she was there at the dawn of MGM until 1970. 1970 was her last film. That was Trog that you mentioned.
Yeah.
And she went from the Silence to, the talkies. She did a singing cowboy thing in Montana Moon that everybody forgets that. And she was also like the Annette Funicello of her generation, in that she had such a following of young girls and, like a teen. If you see her in her younger films, she always has like a group of young people around her, and she's the center. And it does remind me of Annette Funicello in the Beach movies, how she always has the kids around. So, and then just like she's impacted so many different levels, like from the wonderful photographs of Joan Crawford, George Hurrell, these beautiful photos he took of her. She was also always like depicted as almost like a sculpture, because she had such sculpturesque facial structure.
Yes.
So yeah, there was just so many different people that she impacted. And then her sense of fashion, the fashions alone, some people are fans of Joan for the fashions alone. Like when you see in the 40s, when she was really at the zenith, and the late 30s, that you'll never see that again. You don't see people dressing like that.
No, she really, there was something about it too. And of course, the eyebrows too, famous for
Oh,
those incredible eyebrows, right?
yes. They became those kind of eyebrows with Sadie McKee. Prior to that, she had thin eyebrows. If you've seen her early film, she had the really skinny eyebrows, which were the
Yeah,
eyebrows of the day,
right.
and then suddenly she got a darker, thicker eyebrow with Sadie McKee in 1934, and from then on it became her signature look. She did the lips, she became the Joan Crawford that we know. She got that iconic look to her. So you
Mm,
see, that's an early photo from the
yeah,
20s,
you
and you
can
see
really
how
see
the eyebrows, you barely see them.
much thinner, right?
Yeah, and the thin lips at that time. So she didn't start that look until the mid 30s, and that's her with her mother, Annabelle Johnson. Yeah,
That's
Anna
incredible.
Casson. Yeah,
You can see some of the resemblance there as
yeah.
well. So, how did you take the passion for Joan Crawford and turn it into this fantastic book? I mean, a 4.5 year or so process is
Yes. Well, it was a
extraordinary.
long process, a very long process.
The cover is
Like I said,
beautiful.
I get really very focused when I'm writing something. So New York City has such great resources. So going to the library, finding all the source materials, and I used a lot of different methods to track things down. And then Sean Considine had contacted me. He wrote Betty and Joan, The Divine Feud. And we became very, very friendly. He said, "Oh, I think you're one of the few people who really got my book." And he was a great supporter of mine. And then Carl Jones, he wrote Crawford the Last Years. I met Jim Seibel, who had been Carl's partner for many years until Carl passed away. And Jim had contacted me and said, "I have something for you," which was a Pepsi thing from Joan. And it was detailed in the book. And it also had like a casserole on the bottom that Joan
Did it?
Crawford had used. And Jim and I ended up becoming good friends. So he wrote my afterword. I asked him to write my afterword for me. And we talked about Joan and our impressions and all of that. So I just got, emails from people and correspondences with people. And I ended up forming my own opinion of Joan, seeing all her movies, reading everything I could about her,
What
and
was
then
the
writing.
opinion you had before? And then how did that evolve as you were writing and gathering the information?
Yeah, well, the opinion I had before was I thought she was very entertaining. If you watch Sudden Fear and whatever happened to Baby Jane, uh, I always liked her. But then seeing all these other sides to her, uh, I hadn't realized how hard her own life had been. We talk about abused children. She was an abused child. The fact that she survived her childhood was absolutely incredible. And very poor, she was sent to this Rockingham Academy and she was abused there. She was on a work visa there, as a kid. So she, instead of learning, she was spending her time scrubbing floors and washing dishes. And, in Jazz Baby, the book Jazz Baby, he talked about how Joan used to be drugged by her hair and beaten with sticks and going through all this horror in your childhood. And then she had a dream to dance, and she hurt her foot as a kid, and they didn't think she was going to be able to walk. And she had to walk to however long it was to get to the trolley because they were so poor. They didn't have the money, and she ended up dancing on Broadway.
Mhm.
uh, Innocent Eyes, 1924. So that's what's so staggering. I always say it's like the American dream and the American nightmare. That was Joan Crawford's life. That was so staggering to me that, she had this visualization of what she wanted to be and what she wanted to do, and she achieved it
She
against
did.
every odd.
Yeah. She's always
So,
referred to as an actress who was true to form as far as staying with the image of Joan
mhm.
Crawford in her case, of course, born Lucille originally in Texas, but then taking on this image and this role of being everything Joan Crawford. Every time you would see her in
Oh yeah.
interviews, on talk shows and commercials, what have you, there was the look, the sound, the very. I find her face fascinating. Just
Yeah.
looking at her, those eyes, listening to her inflection, her articulation, how particular she is in her speech pattern when just even speaking naturally in an interview, a conversation with a reporter or a talk show host, how she would look for the words, the right words to say as part of all of this. I find the interviews that she did and the talk show appearances, as much as the movies, fascinating material. Have you as well? There's just something fascinating that draws you in. She really pulls you in as Joan Crawford.
Well, what's so fascinating too is there's always a duality with Joan Crawford. You talked about her face. It's feminine and masculine, it's so many different things at once. And I feel like she can be very artificial and yet real at the same time. I call her the Maria Callas of film, because I feel like she puts such an emotional output in every role. And also, just from an acting standpoint, I always notice how she's always present in her movies, and you could see that from even a young age. She didn't have any experience going in there. I mean, she did her chorus line stuff, but she didn't really have any experience yet. You can't take your eyes off of her when she's on the screen. And that was true from very early on. Like The Unknown plays a lot, that, the 1920s film of hers, where she's a carnival girl.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, she's 21 years old in that, and just the intensity of her performance. So I feel like everything that she experienced in her life, it almost gets channeled into her acting. So she feels you believe her, like you believe her, even if she's the most, in an artificial environment, dressed to the nines, you believe her, because there's that raw emotion that comes through that,
And she did a lot of public service work as well.
Oh
She
yeah.
did a lot of charitable work. And when she would do public service announcements and promos for various charitable organizations, like you said, the way she would present it, the way she would deliver it, the sound of the voice, there was a command, there was an elegance, there was an authoritative nature, but yet at the same time, there was this warmth and vulnerability
Right.
happening through the use of her smile, the gentleness, but yet the strength and confidence. It was a dichotomy, like you say, it was a yin and a yang that
Yes.
we were seeing in front of us, which was extraordinary. We actually have a PSA, public service announcement, as they call it, folks,
Oh,
of her doing a promo for one of the organizations, and just wanted to have people see what we're talking about. And,
okay.
and this is a public service announcement. It's not one of her classic films, but just in the
Okay.
way that she delivers it is so convincing and makes you want to help and contribute. Take a look at this. This is Joan Crawford doing her thing, public service announcement, folks. And then we'll continue our amazing conversation with brilliant author Donna Marie Novak is here. Take a look at this. Joan Crawford in her words.
I'm here with a very brief reminder for you women. We're all aware of the importance of the Pap test in guarding our lives when it comes to cancer of the uterus. What I'd like to mention is we should have the Pap test done as part of a regular health checkup. So if it's been a year or more since you've had this simple examination, see your doctor. It's important to you and to the people who love you.
that for the American
Yeah.
Cancer Society. There's a strength and a confidence there, like you should definitely do it. You must do this, but a warmth at the same time. It's just fascinating to me.
Yeah, and I think that's it too, what you said, the dichotomy. I feel like that's what always kept me glued to Joan, is that she's so many things rolled up into one. She's for everything that you could say about her that's true, the exact opposite is also true. So, and that's what kept me fascinated with her.
Do you
And you
feel
see
she
it with all.
struggled with that? Do you think she struggled with that yin and yang, or it just
um,
came naturally for her?
Well, when you think about it, she started at MGM, and MGM does have, it presents this artificial universe, and everybody was coached their dialect. They spoke in this in a specific way. Like if you even look at Mia Farrow in Rosemary's Baby, she talks in a certain, almost like a British fashion. So they were all given that elocution lessons and things like that. So she had that MGM background, so she could project the elegance, and she had the elegance herself. I mean, it was her too. It was her her passion and her wanting to be a film star and to present herself as a film star. You look at Joan's, all these photos of Joan's, and they're absolutely amazing. She was really avid about these photographic sessions. Like, she would come up with different poses, and she really loved it. She embraced it, which wasn't true of everybody. So, and I think that she had all those different sides to her coming out. And I think it was comfortable for her to be under the veil of Joan Crawford. Yet that other side to her, the Billy Casson, Lucille LeSueur, I feel that was still there, and it comes out a little bit. I listened to some interviews of her, radio interviews, and this was like from the 50s, and you hear her talking in that Joan Crawford voice.
Yes.
And when she starts getting nervous, suddenly this accent comes out, like the other Joan comes out, like a little bit of an accent. So I thought that was really interesting, And then
Absolutely. Yeah.
you could tell people she was really comfortable with, and then ones that she wasn't comfortable with. It was a whole different attitude that she had.
Katharine Hepburn had a certain sound. Betty Davis.
Yeah.
Betty Davis would always say, well, it's that hearty New England Yankee stock that she was from. Katharine Hepburn, also from New England. And there was just a certain aura and presence about these ladies that was extraordinary. There was a confidence, there was a resilience, can-do spirit, but of course, vulnerability deep in there as well, too, that sometimes would sneak out.
Yeah. Well, that was the interesting thing too. Like Clark Gable, Barbara Stanwyck, they had almost these hard scrabble backgrounds, but then they became these glamorous icons. But they always had that little bit of an edge. You can see that. Clark Gable, of course, always had that, like a little bit of a tough edge, and Joan as well. And also when she moved into the 40s, that was Warner Brothers. So that was a whole different ballgame where she had to be a little bit tougher. You're dealing with Mildred Pierce, and, it's a whole different genre of film. So she had to be a different kind of person than she was, or a different kind of actor than she was in the 30s films for MGM, which were light and frothy sometimes.
What are some things as well that surprised you in doing your research about Joan Crawford that maybe you didn't think about or just came to light as you did? I would imagine it gave you a deeper, richer appreciation and connection to her in writing the book, huh?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one thing. Like, I heard Charles Bush say one time that Joan Crawford is the history of Hollywood. And I was thinking, really? At the time that I heard that, I was like, really? That's interesting. And then when I was researching Joan, I thought, well, she is the history of Hollywood. And I hadn't realized to what extent. I didn't know about all of her silent films when I started out. I didn't know that she started in these musicals, like the singing, like I said, Montana Moon, where it was the first singing cowboys picture. So many of those things. I didn't know that she was a shy person, or how short she was, because she gives the impression of being a very tall person, and she's actually quite short. And you see in certain movies, like Possessed, the 1947 one, you see in certain scenes, oh wow, look how small Joan is. She's small, but she's such a dynamo. So that's some of the things that I found out about her.
Yeah, because she did look tall, like in these images, she looks
Oh,
very tall and very commanding. But yes, like you said,
and
uh,
Milton Caniff, I didn't know that she was the inspiration for the Dragon Lady in Terry and the Pirates, the cartoon. And I'm a cartoonist too. So, and I found the exact photo of Joan from Chained that inspired that character. I was looking around, I thought, oh God, I know that outfit, the Dragon Lady's outfit. So I found it. I was like so pleased with myself. There it is. This is it. That is what Milton Caniff saw. That was, how he drew his character. And it's the kind of impact she had. People forget that. I mean, they didn't know that in the 20s, like with Our Dancing Daughters, what an impact that had on young girls, that they were writing letters to her, and, that she was who they wanted to be. She was like considered to be the ultimate flapper. F. Scott Fitzgerald called her the quintessential flapper.
and for anybody that's watching, maybe of a different generation that's not sure what a flapper means, they might think somebody who's a very good conversationalist, a flapper. But there's another definition for that. We can all be called flappers, I guess, if that's how we're going to do it, right? But define that for the audience in case there's anybody who doesn't know what that means.
Oh, they were in the 1920s. The flapper was what they called the mod woman of that day, and they used to dance and do the Charleston. It was a type of dance that they did, and Joan Crawford was very. She would go to the Coconut Bowl and she would do these the Charleston, and she won all sorts of trophies for it. So the flapper really came out in the 20s, and they were considered to be a little daring for their time. They were the daring young women of their time, and they dressed in a certain way, and danced, did their 1920s dances, and anything goes. They have flappers in that show if you want to see that. So that was the type of dancer, really, the flapper.
You've done a lot of different research. We've got some photos here. Even
Oh yeah, that
tell
was
us about this.
okay. This is I was doing a
Charles
book
Bush
signing.
was a guest on our show as well. He's been
Oh,
here. Yeah,
oh, who?
Charles Bush.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, I love Charles Bush.
yeah. He's terrific. He's been a guest here on the show. Yeah.
Great. This is Hedda Lettuce. I'm pointing at it as if anybody can see that. But Hedda Lettuce, she was such an advocate for my book. She said she read it cover to cover, and she loves Joan as well. And she told me that she felt like I had such a compassion towards Joan, because I do. I feel like I look at Joan Crawford, and for all her success, I feel like she could never rest on her laurels. Do you know what I mean? She could never rest on her laurels. She was always battling something. Like you were saying, in the 1930s, they were considered box office poison, all these great actresses, which is crazy, Katharine Hepburn and all that. And they, somebody like Katharine Hepburn probably let that roll off her shoulders. But Joan Crawford, with her background, she couldn't just let that roll off her shoulders. Like, this was everything to her. She was invested in it. And so she wanted to make sure that, she wasn't box office poison anymore. So it was that kind of thing. And even like when she became on the board, the first female on the board of Pepsi-Cola, I feel like she had to battle the men there. It was never an easy thing for her. She always she always found herself at odds in some ways. She had to fight for everything. She had to fight to get Mildred Pierce, and look what happened. She won the Oscar. So she's the comeback kid,
Yes. Did you like and enjoy whatever happened to Baby Jane?
Oh yeah, that's a very fun movie. And I like Betty Davis too. She's not, I don't have her on the level of Joan. I think Betty Davis is phenomenal, but she doesn't move me the way Joan does. I should say it that way. She doesn't move me the way Joan does, but I think Betty is so much fun, and as Baby Jane, it's incredible. I mean, sometimes it's so eerie.
Yes. And Joan in the wheelchair, it
Oh
was just
yeah.
an extraordinary, both of them, their performances were exemplary on
Oh
so many levels, huh?
yes, definitely. And they
Yeah,
have a clip from Sadie McKee, the 1934 film in Baby Jane. What I couldn't
exactly.
find though is the Pepsi. Joan Crawford was part of the product placement thing that went on when she was working for Pepsi Cola, and she put
Yeah.
Pepsi in all these different movies. And I was able to find the Pepsi in most of her movies. I I don't think I found it in Baby Jane unless it was on the beach. It might have been on the beach. There's a scene on the beach that might have had the Pepsi Cola.
Look at
But
this. You did find this.
yeah, that's a Polish fan
Look
who
at
sent
that.
me that picture.
And
There she is.
wow, and actually found the star and the Hollywood Walk of
Yeah,
Fame and
which I went to see
and
too. I
reading
saw
your
that.
book, of
Yeah,
course.
isn't that great? I love that picture.
That is a great shot.
Yeah.
Wow. There's another great one too.
Oh yeah. This is when I was picking up photos. That his name
For
is
the book,
Neil.
right?
San
Yeah,
Francisco. I flew out to San Francisco to try to. This is how I was though. I was living in New York. Flew out to San Francisco because of the great photo collection, and I would
sure.
go everywhere trying to get. I wanted it to be the way I visualized it. I wanted to have as many photos as possible, exceed any book's number of photos of Joan Crawford. And I wanted the best photos I could find that
Well,
represented. Yeah.
you certainly did, illustrated with over 300
Yes.
photos, many
Yeah.
of
And they
them
didn't even use
rare,
all of them. Yeah.
never before seen in print.
Yeah. Some
And
of them.
like you said, Just Joan is a compilation of over 4 years of comprehensive research,
Yes.
culled from rare Lincoln Center archives,
Mhm.
original magazines, and those who knew her. And she's examined in the book as a feminist forerunner, a gay icon, which she was as well, a dynamic artist, and as one of the world's great movie stars. And what I like too is you have many anecdotes and quotes within Just Joan that do reveal her sassy, indomitable spirit, that
Yeah.
spirit that the actress was known for growing up in abject poverty with an indifferent family, and yet
Right.
against unseemingly, so much strife and setbacks, she was able to rise from the ashes like a phoenix.
Mhm.
Where do you think that determination and that phoenix-like attitude came from within her?
That's hard to say. I mean, some people say it's, she was born in Texas, maybe it's a Texan spirit, but then she was living in Missouri. So I think because she had so much adversity, she had the adversity, but Henry Casson, her stepfather, he wasn't her father, he had that vaudeville house, that opera house, and they had Anna Pavlova, and they had all these different people there. And I think that she always had the dream. She always had a creative side to her. She had a dream. So she never lost that. She never lost that capacity to have a dream. And I think that was one of the catalysts for her to have her achieve those dreams. She knew there was a sunnier side out there. I think that's what it was. It wasn't all dim. When she was at Rockingham Academy, and it was a very brutal experience there, she started dating. She was going to dances. She saw there was another life out there. So I think that she had a little bit of a light, that a green light to say, there's life outside of this horror you're living right now. And she was going to go forward towards that. So
Do you think she was a happy person?
I think there were periods when she was really happy. You know how they say about Judy Garland? They're always saying, "Oh, Judy," and some of, I guess, Liza and some of her family members get mad about that. Judy's always portrayed as being such a tragic figure when she had a great sense of humor. She obviously had some good times in her life, so there's never like one side to somebody. I think that Joan Crawford had a lot of pain, and I think that she was damaged by her experiences. I would not deny that. I think that everything that she went through had an impact on her, but I also feel like she had a lot of joy in her too. She loved dancing, she loved all these things, and you can just, even with photos that you see her laughing, and she obviously had some very good times in her life. She had some dear friends like Cesar Romero. I sent you two photos of that too, Cesar Romero. He was a good friend of hers, and Myrna Loy. They started in the Silence together, and they were lifelong friends. Yeah, there's Cesar Romero. Dedicated friends, Billy Haynes, who she co-starred with him, and he was very popular in the 20s. He was her friend for life. So it's not like she was just this desolate human being. She had her friends. She had Daddy Wood, James Daddy Wood from Rockingham Academy. He was an advocate for her from young years, and she corresponded with him until he died in the 60s. So that's how loyal Joan Crawford was. That's something that a lot of her friends, talk about, is that she had such loyalty in her. There's a lot of things I respect about Joan Crawford, and I think, she gets a bad rap, but she had a lot of good qualities. And I feel like she was going kind of against the tide of everything she'd been through, So I feel like she was trying to do the best with her life that she could, and she certainly achieved so many of her dreams probably beyond her wildest dreams.
She was called the ultimate star too,
Mm-hmm.
and honed in the heyday of the studio star system with a career that spanned well over 50 years. And her position as a legend and screen icon, still is intact, isn't it, to this day?
Oh yeah, that's the thing. There's still new waves of people coming out who like Joan Crawford, and it's funny because somebody had said to me, "Well, if I ask my grandchildren, do you know who Joan Crawford is? They don't know who she is." And I said, "Well, that might be true of your grandchildren, but it's actually not true of the film world. When you start getting into the film buffs, I've had a lot of people write letters to me or send emails to me, and they're like in their early 20s, teenagers, and it might be through different things. Some of them don't know anything about Mildred Pierce. They might have seen her in a film on TCM or something, and they just love the way she dresses, and or they just become a fan because they like her, they've seen her movies, and they're young people. So I just think that it's not true that she's only for a certain generation. I think that she keeps getting new. It's like the phoenix. She keeps rising over and over again, for new generations.
How did you know how to set the book up in terms of, because you cover so much, and again, I really encourage folks to get this book, but it also plays off your website, filmsofcrawford.com as well. Tell us about all that, and how did you know, how to format the book and what to include, what not to include, to make it the great read that it is, Donna?
Well, I wanted it to be, like a reference book as well, so that people could just look through it and find what they want. I have all the directors, the fashion designers in there. I have all of them listed. I have the films divided between the studios, whatever studios they were in. I have them grouped: the 1920s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s. I have the television work. Then I have the bios that were written about her. I have the stories that were made into Joan Crawford films. So I grouped it in that way. I classified them, films in one section, and then the books, and things like that. And I even have some Joan Crawford games.
You do, right?
Yes.
There's a
Yes, I
stunning
do.
shot of her there.
Oh yeah. That's from Dancing Lady.
That's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah. And
Wow.
see, Joan knew how to work it,
She did. Yeah, she
She
did.
knew.
And like you said, she looks extraordinarily tall there. And
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We love this one too. This is a great
Yeah,
one.
French Otone. That's a fan actually made that collage and sent that to me.
Oh, that's so nice. Now you've
Yeah.
had a lot of that where they have done that, huh?
Yeah,
Fans
I've
just
had fans.
realize, yeah.
Yeah, I have fans. They write and they ask me questions, and I have fans who send me photos, and uh, they send me their collections. They show me pictures of their houses and what they have of Joan Crawford. So it's been like that. And I've developed. I used to develop correspondences with some of them, and then they eventually taper off. But it's really great to see all the people out there, and they're from all over the world. Really, they're from different countries. uh she reaches far and wide.
She really, really does. And,
Yeah.
and that whole time period too with Pepsi Cola was
Yeah.
fascinating too.
Yeah.
And you delve somewhat into that as well. And people might not realize that she was, head of Pepsi Cola after her husband had passed, which was shocking and devastating for her. And
Yeah.
now she's heading a major cola company, but she seemed to be able to take that on with pride, right?
Yeah, that's the amazing thing about Joan Crawford too. And she was a goodwill ambassador for Pepsi Cola. She traveled so much for that product. I mean, she went all over the world plugging Pepsi, and she made sure it was in her films. That was actually in the contracts, that they had to put the Pepsi placements in that. And you see it in Straight Jacket. It's actually very funny when you see all the Pepsi, yeah, the Pepsi Cola everywhere. So, but I think she was strong enough to do that, to be heading, to be, the first female on the board of Pepsi Cola. She was strong enough to do that. And that's the amazing thing about her, is what Joan wanted to do, what Joan visualized, she did. She also did a
Mhm.
lot of radio.
She did.
Yeah, she did a lot of radio.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
there
And she had adopted 5 children as well, right?
5. Yeah.
Yeah.
One, the first Christopher was taken away from her, and that was very tragic for her. But, she had Christina and Christopher, and then the twins, Kathy and Cindy. And they were fraternal twins. They weren't identical twins.
Here she is with Christina there.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful
Yeah.
shot.
Right. And, some people laugh at that they're wearing identical clothes, but you know what? That was the fashion. You know what I mean? Like when I was a kid, my sister and I were dressed alike, and
Sometimes the husband and wife would wear similar
yes,
sweaters. And
exactly.
yeah, yeah. I remember
I
there's
even see that now. Some people
where
have
they're
pictures
wearing
and
similar
the whole
sweaters.
family is in an outfit, a certain outfit, which is really funny.
Doesn't have
But
to be the Brady Bunch to do it
yeah,
either.
I always say the Song of the South photos of Joan. So,
Exactly.
because I
Why
know
do you
you do
think
something. Yeah.
why do you think she continues to be so relevant today? When you watch her on the talk show interviews, she has this wonderful wit about her. She can come back
Yeah.
relatively quickly with a deadpan face. It's fascinating.
Yeah, well, I think that she's timeless. I think that's it in a nutshell. She's really timeless. She gave everything of herself when she was in those movies. And I think that it transmits to people, and it crosses generations, it crosses time, from whether you're seeing her in the 30s or the 40s or the 50s or even in the 20s, it just transmits it, all that she was projecting and giving. So I think that's why she lasted, and she was she had such an impact on so many different levels, from the artists who were inspired by her. I have a picture of her with Salvador Dali on my website, uh, and my Facebook page too. And I just feel like that, you know, because there is such a duality about her, because she has so many different layers to her, I think that that's part of the fascination too. It is for me, and I think that's true of many people. You can't just pinpoint Joan and stick a pin in it. There's just so many different layers.
And she's volunteering the war.
Yeah. That is the 1943 picture. She funded these children who were the children of war workers, and she did this out of her own money. She made the meals. She was really a big, part of the war effort. She had a victory garden, and she was with the American Women's Voluntary Services. So she really did a lot for the war effort. And this was all out of her own pocket that she was doing this for these kids. She also paid the hospital bills of people in the film industry who couldn't afford it. And she did that anonymously. She did that without any fanfare. There are a lot of things people have forgotten, or that are never talked about.
Right, exactly.
But she did a lot of charity work.
She
really
did.
Mm-hmm.
We actually have something here. She did a little segment at home for the Jimmy Fund and the Dana-Farber Institute, Cancer Institute, which is so beautiful. And the Jimmy Fund, of course, is so important. The Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, folks, if you can support and donate, I wholeheartedly recommend that you do. But back then, Joan gave of her time, and you sort of had an opportunity to see her in her home with the kids at, I believe it was around Christmas time. And here it is, folks. Again, just like what Donna's talking about, her giving nature was in full swing here. She was supporting the Jimmy Fund and the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, which is such an important cause. Take a look at this.
Good night, Mother. Good night, Mother, dear.
Good night, darling. Happy dreams. God bless.
This is our best time. The best time for all mothers and children. The moment of wonderful peace and contentment. Knowing your children are all cozy in bed for the night. Safe and sound. Happy and healthy. Sometimes I wonder if we really appreciate how very fortunate we are. How truly blessed for the joy of these precious moments. For that greatest of all gifts, our children's happiness and health. For there are other mothers, so terribly many, who no longer know such moments of peace and happiness, who may never know it again. Mothers of child cancer victims. Children, boys and girls like yours and mine, struck down by the most ruthless of all killers, cancer. Here at the Jimmy Fund building in Boston, more than 200 child cancer patients are cared for every day. The finest treatment known to medical science, where parents are always welcome, where devotion to service is ever far above and beyond the call of duty, where they are surrounded by an atmosphere lovingly designed to fill their every hour with every possible happiness. All this made possible because of your great heart, you, the people of New England. This is their only chance, their only hope to live, until that wonderful day when the prayer in every mother's and father's heart is answered. And research scientists at last reach the goal towards which they unceasingly strive, to track down and destroy this cruel killer, cancer, which takes the lives of more children than any other disease. Thousands every year. Oh, I know, you're probably sitting there saying, isn't that terrible? But what can I do about it? What can you do about it? You can do a great deal. You can give these little children their only hope, their only chance. You can help speed the day when the cure may be found. You can save a life, a child's life. And thank God tonight that child is not your own. You can help by giving to the Jimmy Fund. The Jimmy Fund, Boston, Massachusetts. In a few moments, members of the theater staff will pass among you. Please give as generously as you can. please.
Quite moving, huh? And
Yeah.
that still exists, the Jimmy Fund, and of course, the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. And for anybody watching, we do support that and say that you should as well. And they're beautiful causes. But that was something quite special, huh?
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
moving.
Obviously that played in theaters.
Yes. Yep. To give people an opportunity to support. Um, when you finished the book, what was that feeling like? That must have been something quite, when you write a book, it's like your baby. You're very
Yeah,
protective
it's true. It is like
of
your baby.
everything in that book and, the characters in the book. What was how did you know when you were satisfied with it and finished with the last period on the last sentence to release it to the world?
Well, when I knew that I couldn't go any further with my research, when I couldn't go any further with certain things I was trying to track down, and also I had a deadline. So I did have a deadline, and I had done so much already with the research. There was one piece I was trying to track down, which was "The Damned Don't Cry," the source material for that. I couldn't find that anywhere. I looked, but you have to, at some time you have to give up the ghost. You say, okay, that's, I've gone as far as I can go, and now it's finished. So I've covered all the movies. I've covered as many as of the stories, novels, etc. I can do, and that's that.
You've
It's
had extraordinary feedback from people too,
yeah.
as well. You mentioned Charles Bush. He said, if Joan Crawford was the ultimate star, then Donna Novak is the ultimate fan. She appreciates this complex subject for her skill as an actress, her importance as a pop culture icon, as well as displaying a fine sense of humor for Crawford's more lurid notoriety. Novak
Yes.
has fervor, devotion, and attention to detail that even the fastidious Crawford would cheer. And listen to this, folks. The commentary that has been shared from people, even in the industry and outside the industry, who have fallen in love with Just Joan. This comes from Terry Castle, daughter of William Castle, the director of Straight Jacket, I Saw What You Did, and producer of Rosemary's Baby. And Terry says, if you love Joan, you'll love this book. When you hear these kinds of comments, it must really fill your cup.
Oh yeah, it does feel good. It's really good when people appreciate what you're doing. That your work has paid off, and it's a good feeling, very good feeling. I thought William Castle was a really fun film director too, so I went to a William Castle film festival, and
Did
I
you?
actually met Terry. Yes, yeah.
Wow,
So it was great,
that's incredible.
and I met Ann Blythe as well.
How did you, were the things that you wanted to include in the book, but you just couldn't fit in the book? It's almost like when somebody has 30 songs that they want to put on their album, but they have to put it on the album and pick only the best 10 of them. How did you know what to pick and choose?
Well, I knew I wanted to, of course, cover the films because we're all talking about Joan because of her movies, and then no other reason, not no other reason, but the primary reason. This is why we all love Joan, because of what she's given to the film industry, So radio, there are things I couldn't get into as much because otherwise I would have 1,000-page book, and I felt like what I included, I felt happy about. I did the books. I had all the things where you got the sense of who Joan Crawford was, and so I felt like it satisfied what I was trying to do. my vision of what I wanted people to know about Joan Crawford.
You
You know.
cover the films, you cover television, you
Mhm.
cover other works and essays as well. I mean, it
Yes.
is a comprehensive look at this iconic figure on so many levels.
Yeah, and I also try to do what other people haven't done. I was aware of all of the books that had been written about Joan, and I wanted to
So
do something
much, yeah.
that hadn't been done and put it out there. So I want it to be very diverse. Where people can page through, they can read what they want, they can, look up something and say, oh, okay, I'm going to go to this part. So
Did
that
you
was.
have a favorite section? Is there a favorite section for you in the book?
God, it's hard to say. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I like lounging Joan, because if you're a Joan Crawford fan, you have to appreciate that she's got a real camp side to her as well. She can be very nuanced and sophisticated as an actress, and she can also be flat out, campy and over the top, like you see in Straight Jacket and all that. So I have a little photo section, lounging Joan, and I think that's quite funny, of Joan with her poses
Yeah.
throughout the years.
You mentioned too, which I think is really cool, fun with Joan puzzles
Yes.
as well, and then answers. Fun with Joan trivia, Joan logic problems, and
Yeah.
yeah, Crawford Grams, and bring back the fine art of lounging, like you're saying. Tell
Oh,
us
yeah.
about that. People aren't going to find that in other books.
I know. Well, I'm a big fan of logic puzzles. So I wanted to have a little fun there. I wanted people to have some fun with Joan trivia and, throw in a logic puzzle and, just make it a fun book. I'm a very literary person, but I also wanted the Joan Crawford book to be accessible to all the fans and to have fun with it, have fun with Joan, her image, all of that, for the wide array of fans that she's got out there. So I wanted, people to have fun doing puzzles, doing a little trivia and stuff like that. So that's how that came about.
It really is cool. I think it's fantastic. And what's amazing, as we've said, is there's been so much written and done about these iconic figures. Like I said,
Mhm.
last night we talked about Marilyn Monroe, another one that's just so much material. What I find interesting too about these figures, whether it is Joan Crawford, Marilyn Monroe, Betty Davis, Elvis Presley,
Right.
Katharine Hepburn, any of them, people are fascinated and they can't seem to get enough of them.
I
They
agree.
want more. They just find them so alluring and so fascinating that they can't, James Dean, any of them, they just can't seem to get enough, which is quite amazing, right?
Yeah. Well, I think, the people you're mentioning, they have a larger than life quality about them. So there's that aspect, there's that plane of being larger than life, being, above the ordinary. And yet they have something very real about them too. They've all suffered. Marilyn Monroe, Elvis Presley, Joan, they all have that, element of realness as well. And I think that that's what draws people in. I think that's one of the connections that the people have.
You
Like I
know,
said, duality. It's a duality.
it is a duality as well.
Yeah.
We talked about film, but also she made some wonderful, iconic appearances on television, even with Lucy and
Oh yeah.
Lucille Vivian Vance, which was really something special, huh? They were
Yeah.
terrific. There's moving into that empty house, and was she a criminal? And what's going on? And
Yeah. And Lucy and Joan did not get along at all
you mean on set, or you mean in real
on
life?
set.
On
Yeah, on
set, they
set they did
didn't, huh?
not get along at
Two
all.
strong women coming together.
Yes, and she felt like Joan was drinking, but Joan at the when it came down to it, pulled this whole thing off and even did a Charleston, I think, in that episode.
Yes.
So
Leave it to Vivian Vance to be the go-between.
yeah, yeah.
Wonderful Vivian Vance, right?
Oh yeah.
Ah, I tell you. Yeah.
And Joan was also directed by Steven Spielberg.
That's
Night
right.
Gallery, the Eyes episode, that was
Night
1969. That
Gallery.
was
I saw
one of
that recently on one of the nostalgic channels.
Steven Spielberg's early directorial efforts, and he actually came to respect her, and she really
Yes.
took him seriously. She didn't blow him off like, oh God, he's in his 20s, forget about him. She took him seriously and listened to him, and maybe she had a good intuition because Steven Spielberg became Steven Spielberg.
Exactly. Right.
So I
And
felt she
then
had
there
a good,
was
yeah.
Trog.
Oh God, yeah.
I like to say
Oh
that.
my
Oh God,
God.
yeah.
I
Oh
always
God,
say
yeah.
that suit, Trog, the
Stop
poor
it,
actor
Trog.
who had to play
I just
Trog,
always
and I
hear
don't
it.
know.
Stop
Yeah.
it, Trog.
I
It's
mean,
become
let's face it,
a
that was
cult
like a low
classic.
point in Joan's career.
It was
She had her
towards,
low points, but she's
yeah.
just, the thing about her, and which is so funny too, she just bravely, uh, you know, soldiers through. She's stuck in this god awful horror movie, and she's gonna just soldier through and give it
She
her all,
did.
like she always does.
She did.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
gives it all.
She absolutely did. You mentioned, of course, well, Mildred Pierce, she's so famously
Oh
known
yeah.
for Another. Is that one of your personal favorites as well?
I will tell you that that's my favorite Joan Crawford film. People always ask me that, what my favorite is, and I've seen everything. Mildred Pierce still to me is the greatest Joan Crawford film. I love that movie. I love Joan in the 1940s. That's my favorite era for her. And I love, to me, it has all the contrasts that made Joan Crawford so great. The strength and the vulnerability. She was a businesswoman in that, taking charge. She had her struggles, so there's aspects of it that mirror her life. And there's the conflict with her daughter. There's just so many different layers of it. And there's the beautiful cinematography. I think it's a great movie. And I love James M. Cain. He's one of my, an author I really like. I've read Mildred Pierce several times. And I think, although it doesn't, strictly follow the book, I think they did a wonderful cinematic adaptation of the book. And James M. Cain himself was happy with Joan in the role. He gave her his endorsement. So that's as high as you can get when you're getting it right from the author. So that still is my top favorite Joan Crawford film.
I mentioned too, there was a period where she was actually considered box office
Oh yeah.
poison. This
Yes.
brilliant actress, and there was a stoppage for a while of material, and then a resurgence. Tell us about that very incredible period. Some people would have walked from that and said, "Okay, well, I guess my time was my time. I'm done. I'm going to move on to some other career."
Oh
But
no, not
she
Joan.
didn't give in or give up, right?
No, not Joan. Well, in the late 30s, I think she had done a string of these kind of, I don't want to call them, maybe call them frothy MGM movies. And she lobbied to get a part in The Women, George Cukor, and play Crystal Allen, who is not the, BITCH, Crystal on that role. And she did it brilliantly. They didn't want to give her that part, but she really lobbied for it. Then you saw another side to her as an actor. That's another thing about her, is that she kept doing that. She kept lobbying for these film roles that they didn't want to give her, and acing them, like The Women. She's one of the standouts out actually in that cast. She doesn't even have a huge role, but you think she does because she leaves such an impact. And she's very funny, as Crystal Allen.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the things that got her out of it. And then she did A Woman's Face. That was another one. She wasn't shy about showing herself disfigured, so that was the thing that brought her out of it. And then Above Suspicion was her last film at MGM. I happen to love that movie. Joan Crawford didn't. I love that movie. I think it was really
Joan Crawford
fun.
didn't, right? Yeah.
No, she didn't, but I loved it. I mean, because it wasn't the traditional Joan that we know. It was, a different kind of part for her with Fred McMurray, and it was
Right.
totally unrealistic with the
Yeah.
Nazis, how
Right.
bold they were with the Nazis.
Right.
But I still thought it was a lot of fun. So after that, she left. She left MGM, which was very traumatic for her. And what happened is she ended up getting Mildred Pierce, really fighting for that role, getting it, proving herself, and winning the Oscar. You can't do better than that.
Did you like her in Berserk also? There's
Yeah.
Mildred.
I mean, I did. I liked her in Berserk, but not as much as Straitjacket. I thought she was much more fun in Straitjacket. And I happen to like William Castle, who's like such a big kid. He makes his movies fun, and I think things should be fun, So, I mean, I thought Straitjacket, she went over the top and, and beyond. Some of the scenes in there are just so memorable because of her just, taking it. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah. I know.
And it could have been just like your regular schlocky movie, but she made it so fun and funny too, where she's flirting with her daughter's boyfriend, and she traces those lips with her finger, which they weren't expecting. Diane Baker had said that they weren't expecting that, so it totally threw them for a loop. And you you almost see Diane Baker trying not to laugh. Yeah. But the performance too was really impassioned. She has that one scene with the mother-in-law, and it's so impassioned, and you're thinking, Joan's bringing everything here to the table. She's bringing all of her past, everything she ever went through, and she's putting it into this crazy role. So, and making it a little bit riveting, like, whoa, look at that. Where is that coming from?
Yeah. I mean, it's really amazing the amount of material that she has been a part of from film and television is just extraordinary. All these different projects. Look at all these different things. We were just, even trod towards the latter years, but some of the ones we've been referring to that have been extraordinary, and go back and just Chained is another one with Clark Gable. She performed quite often with Clark Gable as well. Humoresque is another one. Sudden Fear too. Now what's going to happen is, I know forsaking all others, I know others are, a lot of our viewers are going to be doing a lot of binging this weekend on Joan Crawford movies, Grand Hotel, and The Damn Don't Cry, and Strange Cargo. I mean, we're really scratching just The Bride Wore Red.
Yes.
We're just scratching the surface. Gary Cooper. I mean, working with Mildred Pierce, of course, working with other incredible people too. I mean, some of the people is above suspicion with Fred McMurray that you mentioned, who of course was the dad on Father Knows Best, not Father Knows Best, on My Three Sons.
Yeah.
My Three Sons. We had Stan Livingston and Barry Livingston here on the show.
Oh yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah, they're fantastic. Stan Livingston is a great guy. And Johnny Guitar, and Strange Cargo again, Torch Song. So many. And there's Berserk. I know so many people are going to enjoy these just by going.
I wanted to say this too. You asked me about some of the things that I found surprising when I was doing the book, and one of the things is I discovered silent films in another way. And I'd seen silent films before, but because I was watching Joan in these films, it was really incredible to see that silent films were their own art form. They really were. The drama, all that was communicated through facial expressions and the black and white. There's some amazing, the whole thing boggles my mind of how quickly film developed.
Right? From that,
quickly they developed.
Exactly. This is a cool shot too.
Oh yeah, that's Above Suspicion.
Yeah,
it's the cast there, and I think right next to her is Phil Terry, her third husband.
And there she is with the gang, Pepsi, right? Another wonderful shot there.
Yeah,
Another
Candid.
beautiful. Yep,
Because all
Candid,
these
right?
fans used to take pictures. There's another Candid. So many fans. She was very interactive with her fans. That was another thing too about Joan
Flamingo.
Crawford. Yeah, Flamingo Road. That's another film I love. I love Flamingo Road.
That's another great one too.
Yeah, Reunion in France.
Mm.
I liked her with John Wayne. I know I'm in the minority there, but I actually thought she did well. This is the film that started it all for me. They All Kiss the Brides. And I think Melvin Douglas is such a wonderful actor. I love him as an actor. I think he communicates so much and he's one of these people too who has a lot of different layers, to him.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yes. Al Steele, of course.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, Al Steele. Yes. And Joan with her hats. I have
That's
a whole
right.
thing
The
about,
hats.
yeah, her
Yeah,
hats. She was really into hats.
it's another shot with Phil. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Untamed.
Yeah.
That goes
Untamed.
back.
That was the first talkie with
That
Joan.
was the
Yeah.
first talkie as well. And
Yeah.
there's the Pepsi. And it's just extraordinary, like you say, the body of work, the amount of, and of course, there's the cover of your fabulous book. How did you select the photos for the book? There's a lot of wonderful photos in the book, and the cover too. The cover's a great
Okay.
shot of her.
Well,
Just
because my
Joan.
favorite period is the 40s, I wanted to have a 40s photo. And I love
Yeah.
this photo, which is a publicity photo for Daisy Kenyon.
Right.
I felt like, it just captured a lot of the classic Joan Crawford look. And then the one in the back, I wanted to be a different look that has her profile. And that's from the 1930s. And she was with Billy Haynes there.
That's right.
So that's a hero photo.
And what's great about, when I see the image of her on the cover, Just Joan,
Yeah.
it's almost as if that's the expression she has. I'm Just Joan. It almost looks like she's leaning back and saying, I'm Just Joan. You know what I mean? Did you see what I
Yeah.
mean? It has
Uh-huh.
that feeling. It isn't like one of those where she's smiling and dancing and jumping. She's leaning back, thinking and saying, through it all, I've always been Just Joan, which I think is a terrific title. And the feedback again has been ongoing and glowing for you. It's something truly amazing. Did you do this in Audible? Is it narrated as well?
No, I don't have it. I don't have the Kindle, you mean? No, I don't have a Kindle book for
Yeah,
this.
Audible, Kindle.
No, I don't.
Is that something that you'd like to do, or
Maybe. Could be.
tell the
Yeah,
story?
could be.
That would
Yeah.
be kind of cool, and your
Yeah.
words as well, and maybe
Yeah.
quotes and things. I mean, you have put together so much. The research was extraordinary. You say 4+ years.
Yes.
You talked to so many people. You did so much. Lincoln Center was pivotal in this, right? The
Yeah, Lincoln
archives.
Center was pivotal because they have such an incredible collection of everything.
And did you find
They had,
people very open and responsive? Sure. I'll
oh,
let you have
definitely.
this. I'll share
Definitely.
this with you for the book. Everybody.
Yeah, you couldn't, with Lincoln Center, you can't take anything out. You have to stay there. You have to sit there and use it because they don't want anybody pilfering their rare materials, which I totally get. But they also had microfilms that were really rare. So they were really key. Lincoln Center was a key.
I love the word pilfering. I haven't heard that in years.
Yeah, yeah.
And for anybody who doesn't know what that means, maybe that means walking out with stuff that's not yours, bottom line.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
That is funny. That is funny. I know that this has been a labor of love for you, and I'm so excited that you've written this because there has been so much material written about Joan Crawford, and to get the feedback you've been getting, and to cover so much of the films. I mean, we just really scratched the surface of her material, folks. We know there's so much more that she's covered, but when you look at the book and when you look at this iconic Hollywood icon that we're celebrating here on this show, what are some things you are left with that you learned about Joan and maybe even about yourself as you were covering this iconic figure?
Well, I guess I could say that there are certain things I identified with. I love dancing, and just her spirit of having that dream that propels her. I think that that's something a lot of people can identify with, and I think that one of the things I do say in my book is that she's not just a great actress. I consider her to be a great artist. I feel like she crossed over to that level of being an incredible artist because she was so dedicated. She was so committed. She gave everything she possibly could have given. And it's inspiring to anybody who wants to, no matter what kind of art form you're going into, it really is inspiring, to see somebody who has actualized their dream and has done it through the kind of work that she did and the kind of dedication and, the passion. She didn't leave anything. She left everything on the table, basically. So, I mean, that's what I feel about Joan Crawford. You'll never see that kind of glamour again. Uh, and I don't know. I don't know of too many people who had given the level that Joan Crawford gave to just about everything. I mean, it was almost like she was doing it for her life, as you can even see with Trog, or Straight Jacket, where she just threw herself into these scenes. So that's what I get out of Joan Crawford. Just that she was an incredible star, and there's a reason why she's indoors. So, yeah.
Why would you say some people are still confused by her legacy? Like, for example, when we had the guest on talking about Marilyn Monroe, when he wrote his book, he said, one of the reasons as a fan of Marilyn Monroe, I wanted to write the book is I also wanted to address and clear up misinformation and stuff that just is out there, that's superficial, that's not real, that's made up or exaggerated about that iconic figure, Marilyn Monroe. For you, a lot of times you've heard different things. There's been movies about her, no more wire hangers and all these different things about
Right.
her. Was the book also a love letter about Joan in a positive way as well? And were there things that you discovered about Joan Crawford's legacy that aren't really true or aren't necessary, that have been exaggerated or just sent
Well,
out there because it sells, tabloid papers and things of that nature?
Well, here's the thing. You're always going to find the mommy dearest people, and I don't really want to get too much into mommy dearest, but I feel that there was so much more to Joan Crawford than mommy dearest. And I didn't write the book saying, oh, I'm going to restore her image or anything like that. I wanted to write the book because this is what I see in Joan Crawford. This is the amazing, this is absolutely incredible film star that she was, and why she does endure as she does. But as far as people, I think that people being exposed to her films and reading more things about her, maybe they're getting a different view. Like one thing I will say right off the cuff is that they say, oh, Joan Crawford adopted her kids for the publicity. I don't believe that for one second. I really think she wanted to have a family, and I really think she did everything in good faith. I do think she was troubled, and I don't deny that at all, that she had her troubled side to her, but I don't believe for a minute she adopted her kids out of just for the publicity. And she's had so many home movies of Christina, and you could tell she was really enamored with that child. And whatever happened, that went on in that house, we all don't know, So that's another thing too. I just think there's a lot of, it's not just a one-sided thing with Joan Crawford. There's a whole other side to her. I certainly don't think she's a monster, as some people think, because of seeing Mommy Dearest. The movie itself has Joan as a caricature, really, It's a very much, and it parodies some of her films, like Straight Jacket. They show her out there with an axe, like Joan did, all of that. And people take that seriously, even though it's campy, they take it seriously. And so I just think that, you have to look beyond, and you have to look at the whole picture. There's a big picture, not just one little tiny side to it. And she shouldn't be, her image shouldn't be hijacked by just one window, one vision. That's not
Perfectly
flattering.
said. I agree with
Yeah.
you 100%. That's the way to really look at anybody's life, whether they're famous or not, is to look at the big picture, look at them overall and the contributions and maybe the love and attention that they've given. Nobody's perfect, whether they're on stage or they are just walking down the street. Nobody's perfect. And,
Right.
and in this case with Joan Crawford, her legacy is intact. These movies, these television appearances, just all of it is incredible, from the silent era all the way up to, again, Trog. I mean, it really, and the amount of work, even when we were doing, I was digging to do research for this episode. I was forgetting about all of the things that she was in. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on and on. We know Mildred Pierce, we know, whatever happened to Baby Jane and some of the ones that's always talked about, but there's so many other things that she did.
Plus the radio, plus the commercials. There's so
Radio,
many
the
ads.
commercials.
She
Right.
did ads.
She did ads, and then it was running the Pepsi Cola company and all
Oh,
of
yeah.
these things. Just really amazing. Resilience and confidence and belief in oneself and their abilities is the name of the game. Why do you think she still endures today, Donna? What is it about her that people find alluring?
Well, probably because of what you just said too, is the fact that she realized her dreams. She made it happen. She made everything happen. No matter what the obstacles were, she made it happen. And she's left behind such an incredible array of work where she stands out. She's got charisma. That's another thing too. Is she's got a lot of charisma on screen, and I think people become drawn in, and they see these really fine performances. Humoresque, her you see all the silent film experience come out in that movie. She communicates so much through her face. There's just so many different layers, and I think that's what draws people, what continues to draw them. It's there's so much to Joan Crawford. There's so many different layers and levels and dichotomies and contrasts and masculine, feminine, this real, unreal, all kinds of things. So I think that will always draw people in.
Do you have another book in the offing? Is there another one that you are penning, my friend? I don't doubt it.
I did a television book, and right now I've been doing theater. And
What was the television book?
It's Mad About Mystery.
Oh,
100
really?
wonderful, 100 wonderful television mysteries from the 70s.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
and then I have an
I'll have to
amateur
have you come
sleuth.
back to talk about that one, Mr.
Yeah,
TE here.
that would be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also have an amateur sleuth, Iodine Bell, and I'm having I've done radio shows with her, mystery radio shows, and I'm having a live radio broadcast, which is actually, it's a radio recreation. Sparky goes to Doris Day's hotel. I've got an 8-person cast. Yeah, it's really fun. It's really fun. I knew the pianist for the Cypress Inn that Doris Day co-owned. My old movie. I always have an old movie connection here, but Doris Day, and he gave me actually the blueprint of the Cypress. So I plotted everything according to that. And there's a big dog show, and it involves dogs, which Doris Day loved. So I have that going on. So that's what I'm doing right now. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm doing theater right now, taking a hiatus from book writing.
Film and television and all. And
yeah,
that is fantastic. That is great. Have you ever been the performer yourself? Have you dabbled in that world?
I've done community theater. I've done some performances, and I really do it to be inside the theater thing. I do it more as a writer. You learn a lot about characters when you're actually doing it. And I've taken dance classes for years and years, so I've done dance performances and stuff. But primarily I'm a writer.
She's a writer.
I consider that dabbling. I'm dabbling.
She's dabbling.
Dabbling in community theater, dabbling.
There's dabblers and flappers, we have learned on this episode of the Jim Masters Show, right?
I have never been a flapper. That was before my time.
That's what I was going to say. You love what you do, don't you? You love it.
Yes,
I
I
can
do.
tell. This is
It's so
something
much
that,
fun creating.
isn't it?
Creating is, oh, it's great.
And I'm sure that you probably put a lot of pressure on yourself to get the Joan Crawford story right. Self-imposed. I know in work I've done in documentaries and other
Oh, yeah.
projects, maybe where we're celebrating something or someone, the self-imposed weight that you put on you to treat it with respect and dignity, and to express it in a way that maybe connects and resonates with people, and be true to form in how you tell that story, which you've done in Just Joan brilliantly. But I would imagine there was a lot of that self-imposed weight on your shoulders as you were telling the story in the book, right?
Yes, definitely, definitely.
Especially being a
And of course,
fan
you always
too.
have, yeah, yeah, and you have the shadow of some of the negative parts of Joan's image, and you want to be able to navigate that as well. So because I think that's really unfortunate that she should be. Hello?
Yep, we got you. Yep, you're there. Is your battery cocking out? Maybe.
Oh, what happened?
Yep, you're
Okay.
there. You
All
got
right.
it. Just probably a seagull flew overhead or something.
Okay.
um, have you heard from the family, any relatives of the Crawford family at all about the book? I think you froze there.
I think
Oh, you're going in and out a little bit. The Wi-Fi, I think, is going in and out there. You hear me now?
stayed here.
There you go. It's probably, yeah, there she goes. Probably some seagulls flew over her house. Maybe she'll be back in just a second. But here is the book, folks. What a great conversation as we're celebrating the Hollywood extraordinaire, the wonderful icon, Joan Crawford. Want to let you know, if you're tuning in, you're saying, why are we referencing also Marilyn Monroe? We did an epic episode remembering and celebrating Marilyn Monroe as well. And if you didn't see that episode, check it out. It's archived on our YouTube channel. And we recently did some very special tributes to Florence Henderson and Chuck Woolery, the legendary game show host, and Andy Gibb. Also, I Love Lucy and New Zoo Review, the kids show from the 1970s. If you didn't see that. And of course, on this episode, Joan Crawford joining us here. I think her Wi-Fi probably conked out, or her battery maybe on her computer, but she'll probably pop in. If she doesn't pop back in, we will say thank you to our very special guest, Donna Marie Novak, and to all of you for joining us as we took some time to remember and celebrate Joan Crawford, really an icon on so many different levels. We are just scratching the surface, folks. So much more that we didn't have time to really reference, but you can, of course, dig in the archives and find out about. Share your Joan Crawford memories too in our comments section below. If you enjoyed this episode and the conversation with myself and my special guest, Donna Marie Novak, it was wonderful having her here on the show. She also has her website too, filmsofcrawford.com. And once again, the book itself is Just Joan, a Joan Crawford Appreciation. Donna Marie Novak, she is not only a super fan, and as she expressed so lovingly, has always enjoyed her incredible career, but she also at the same time wanted to pen this phenomenal book about Joan. So yeah, so many memories, so many years, and of those days of the glitz and glamour of Hollywood back then. It's not so much like that now as it was back then, with stars of the ilk of a Joan Crawford or the Katharine Hepburns and Jimmy Stewart's and the others that we've talked about, during the course of this show and this series here. But really fantastic stuff, gang. Hope you enjoyed it. And check out, you can always find online some of the talk shows that Joan Crawford was on, and some reporter interviews, some fascinating conversations that she's had with people. That's been quite amazing. I think our guest, Donna, her Wi-Fi probably conked out there, maybe her battery. But we thank her for joining us. She was an epic guest, wasn't she? A very special guest joining us here, Donna Marie Novak. Again, the name of the book is Just Joan. You can get it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, also Bear Manor Media website. And just check it out and enjoy. We appreciate her being here, Donna. And of course, in the spirit of Joan Crawford. And we thank you for being with us here on the show. I'm your host, Jim Masters. Come see us again. We have so many great episodes. You can binge watch past episodes on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. And also, in addition to that, we would love it if you give this episode a thumbs up like, share the episode on your social media. And I will say thank you for watching on behalf of Donna as well, because I know she's probably wishing she could say that, but her Wi-Fi went out, her power went out. Maybe there's a storm where she is. But I'll say it on behalf of Donna, who was a great guest, and myself. We appreciate you being here. I'm sure she'll contact me right after the show. So she sends you her love. I know that. She was excited to be here. We were excited to have her, and we send you the very same. So again, give this episode a like, drop a comment below in the comment section. What's your favorite Joan Crawford movie, story, epic tale? Share this episode on your social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Jim Masters TV. Thanks everybody for being here. We appreciate all your comments, everybody commenting and letting us know that they've enjoyed the conversation. We thank you for your time and attention as well. Come see us again. Love one another, take care of one another, and don't forget to do the very same for yourself. We do say that all the time. Tomorrow, Stephanie Powers is going to be here, legendary actress from Heart to Heart, and so much more. We're so excited and honored to have another iconic actress joining us here on the Jim Masters Show, Stephanie Powers. Look for that and so much more on our program. Be well, everybody. Take care. Thanks for watching, and cheers.